Eleanor Whitmore ate alone. Every single night she sat at one end of an 18-seat dining table while 17 empty chairs stared back at her. Crystal. Silver. Silence. She was worth $400 million, and she had no one. But right now, in this exact dining room, something incredible was happening. Children were laughing, a woman was smiling, and Eleanor, for the first time in 38 years, looked happy. How did we get here? It started 8 weeks ago with a single mother who had $83 to her name, a 6-year-old boy who hummed the wrong song at the wrong time, and one strict rule that should never have been broken. Janelle Williams thought she was just taking a job to survive. She had no idea she was about to fill the loneliest room in America with something money couldn't buy. This is how it happened. The alarm screamed at 5:15 in the morning. Janelle Williams reached across the darkness and slapped it silent. For 3 seconds, she let herself stay still, eyes closed, pretending today might be different. It wouldn't be. She sat up on the pull-out couch and looked at her son. Caleb was 6 years old, curled around a stuffed elephant that had lost one eye and most of its stuffing. His chest rose and fell in perfect peace. At least one of them was sleeping well. Janelle moved quietly to their tiny kitchenette. Studio apartment, 400 square feet. She filled a pot with water for oatmeal and counted the bills stuck to the refrigerator with a smiley face magnet Caleb had made in kindergarten. Electric company. Final notice. Rent. Second warning. She opened her wallet. $83 until Friday, 4 days away. Janelle touched Caleb's forehead gently. "Morning, sunshine baby." His eyes opened, brown and clear and full of trust. "Is today a work day or a work day, Mama?" Her heart cracked. He was 6. He shouldn't have to ask questions like that. Work day, baby. 3 jobs today." Caleb nodded. "Okay. I'll be extra good at aftercare." That was what killed her. He never complained, never asked for things they couldn't afford. He just smiled at her like she hung the moon. They ate oatmeal together. Caleb told her about a cloud that looked like a dragon. Janelle packed his lunch and laid out his school clothes. At 6:30, they walked to the bus stop holding hands. "Mama, why do some people have big houses and we have small ones?" Janelle knelt down on the sidewalk. "Because everyone's story is different, baby. Ours is still being written." "What's going to happen in our story?" "Good things. I'm working on it." At school, his teacher pulled Janelle aside. Caleb fell asleep during reading time again. "Is everything all right at home?" Janelle forced her brightest smile. "Just busy. I'll make sure he gets more rest." She walked away before the tears could come. Job number 1 was the grocery store, 8 until 2. Stocking shelves, rotating inventory, cleaning spills. Her feet ached by noon. At lunch break, she scrolled through her phone. Community job boards, Craigslist, anything that might pay better. That's when she saw it. Live-in nanny housekeeper needed. Private residence. $800 week, plus room and board. References required. Immediate start. $800 a week. More than all 3 jobs combined. And room and board meant she could stop paying rent. Her hands shook as she dialed. A woman answered, British accent, crisp and professional. "Whitmore residence." "Hi, I'm calling about the nanny position. Is it still available?" "It is. Do you have experience?" "Yes, ma'am. Childcare, housekeeping, cooking. I can provide references." A pause. "Do you have children of your own?" Janelle's stomach dropped. "Yes. One son, 6 years old, very well behaved. He wouldn't be in any trouble." The silence stretched. "Mrs. Whitmore's home has no children. It's not suitable for a child. He could stay in our room after school. Please, I really need this job." "I'll speak with Mrs. Whitmore and call you back." The line went dead. Janelle stared at her phone. She wanted to cry. Instead, she went back to work. 2 days passed. The electric company called twice. Janelle worked all 3 jobs and picked up Caleb at 6:15 both nights. He was always the last kid waiting. Thursday evening, her phone rang while she made grilled cheese sandwiches. Unknown number. Ms. Williams, this is Margot from the Whitmore residence. Mrs. Whitmore has agreed to a trial period. 2 weeks. Your son may stay, but there are strict rules. Janelle sat down hard. Yes, whatever the rules are, we'll follow them. Work hours are 7 to 7, 6 days per week. Your son must stay in the staff quarters. No running through the main house. Mrs. Whitmore values silence and privacy. Minimal interaction unless she initiates. Janelle grabbed a pen. Dinner must be served at 7 sharp in the formal dining room. Mrs. Whitmore eats alone. Always. You serve and leave immediately. Something about that felt unbearably sad. When do I start? Tomorrow. I'll text the address. After the call, Janelle pulled Caleb onto her lap. Baby, we're going to live in a big house for a little while. But you have to be very, very quiet. The lady who owns it likes things peaceful. Can you do that? Caleb's eyes went wide. Is she nice? Janelle hesitated. I don't know yet, but we need this, so we'll be respectful, okay? Okay, Mama. I'll be mouse quiet. That night, Janelle packed their belongings into 2 duffel bags. She looked around their studio apartment one last time. Tomorrow, they'd walk into a different world. What Janelle didn't know was that the woman who lived in that big house hadn't heard a child's voice in 38 years, and that Eleanor Whitmore had spent those decades building walls so high, nothing could reach her. Until now. They arrived at 9 in the morning after 2 buses and a 20-minute walk. Caleb stopped at the iron gates and stared. Mama, is this a castle? The estate stretched before them like something from a movie. Perfectly manicured lawns, a fountain with stone angels, and at the center, a mansion of pristine white stone with columns and balconies that caught the morning sun. Remember what I said? Mouse quiet. Don't touch anything. Yes, Mama. A woman opened the service entrance before Janelle could knock. Margot looked exactly like she sounded. 60-something, British, perfectly pressed gray dress, eyes that missed nothing. Those eyes landed on Caleb and narrowed. Rosa didn't mention a child. Janelle's throat went dry. I explained on the phone. He'll be invisible, I promise. Margot studied them, then stepped aside. One noise, one broken item. You're both gone. Inside, Janelle tried not to stare. Marble floors, crystal sconces, paintings in gold frames. Everything is perfect. Everything untouched. Everything empty. Margot led them through room after room. A sitting room with furniture that looked unused. A music room with a grand piano covered in dust. A library with books that smelled like they'd never been opened. No family photos. No clutter. No sign anyone actually lived here. This is the carriage house. Margot showed them a small apartment. Your quarters. The child stays here after school. He does not leave without permission. Caleb whispered, It's like a tiny house, Mama. The main kitchen was next. Professional grade everything. On the counter sat a clipboard. Today's dinner menu, roasted chicken, asparagus, and wild rice, 7 o'clock sharp. Margot led them to the formal dining room. Janelle stopped in the doorway. The room was enormous. 18 chairs surrounded a mahogany table, crystal chandelier, silver candelabras. China is worth more than a car. And at the far end, one place setting. Just one. Mrs. Whitmore dines here every evening, alone. You'll place the food, pour wine, then leave immediately. Don't speak unless spoken to. Janelle stared at all those empty chairs. Does she ever have guests? Margot's face tightened. Not anymore. Then, softer. When you serve, don't linger. Mrs. Whitmore doesn't want company. Respect that. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Janelle cleaned bathrooms that sparkled already, dusted furniture with no dust. Caleb colored quietly in the carriage house. At 6:45, Janelle plated the chicken perfectly. Her hands shook as she carried the tray. At exactly 7, she pushed through the dining room door. Eleanor Whitmore was already seated. She sat at the far end, ramrod straight in a black dress, white hair in an elegant chignon, beautiful bone structure, probably 70, and her eyes were the emptiest thing Janelle had ever seen. "Good evening, Mrs. Whitmore. Roasted chicken with—" Just leave it. Cold. Dismissive. Not cruel. Just absent. Janelle set the plate down, poured the wine. As she turned to leave, her foot caught the chair leg. She stumbled. The wine sloshed, but didn't spill. Eleanor's eyes snapped up. For the first time, she actually looked at Janelle. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. It won't happen again." Eleanor stared for a long moment. "What's your name?" "Janelle Williams, ma'am." "You have a child." Not a question. A statement. "Yes, ma'am. A son, 6 years old. He's in the carriage house. He won't disturb you." Eleanor's hand trembled on her wine glass. So slightly Janelle almost missed it. The silence stretched. "See that he doesn't." Dismissal, clear and final. Janelle left quickly. In the kitchen, she leaned against the counter. Through the doorway, she could see Eleanor sitting motionless, hands folded, staring at the empty table. She hadn't touched her food, all that money, all that space. And the woman was more alone than Janelle had ever been. That night, Janelle tucked Caleb into bed. "The quiet lady seems sad, Mama." "Some people lose things they can't get back, baby." "Can we make her happy?" "That's not our job, sweetheart. We're here to work. Be respectful and quiet, okay?" "Okay." But as Janelle lay in her own bed, she couldn't stop thinking about those 18 empty chairs. What she didn't know was that Eleanor's reaction to hearing about Caleb wasn't random. The trembling hand, the stare, the almost question that died on her lips. Somewhere in this house was a story. A reason why a woman worth millions chose to eat alone every night. A reason why children weren't allowed. And tomorrow, Janelle would discover the first clue. Because at 9:30 that night, after the lights went dark, Janelle heard something that made her blood run cold. The sound of a woman crying, softly, desperately, alone, coming from somewhere deep in the East Wing. Day 2 looked exactly like day 1. 7 in the morning, Janelle prepared breakfast. Poached eggs, toast, fresh fruit arranged on fine china. She carried it to the sunroom where Eleanor took her morning meal. Eleanor sat by the window reading a newspaper. She didn't look up when Janelle entered, didn't acknowledge the food being placed before her, just turned another page with mechanical precision. "Will there be anything else, ma'am?" Silence. Janelle left quietly. That evening at 7, she served dinner in the formal dining room. Grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, quinoa. Eleanor sat in her usual spot at the far end of the table. 17 empty chairs. One lonely woman. Janelle placed the plate, poured the wine, left without a word. Day 3. Same breakfast. Same silence. Same dinner. Same empty table. Day 4. Eleanor spoke exactly 4 words during breakfast. "The asparagus. Prepare it differently." Janelle's heart jumped. "Of course, ma'am. How would you prefer it?" But Eleanor had already returned to her newspaper. Day 5, Caleb asked the question at bedtime. "Mama, why doesn't the quiet lady ever smile?" Janelle pulled the blanket up to his chin. "I think she's sad, baby." "About what?" "I don't know. but she was starting to wonder, starting to notice things. The way Eleanor's hand sometimes paused over her food like she'd forgotten why she was holding the fork. The way she stared at the empty chairs as if seeing ghosts. The way she wore only black. Every single day. Black. Day 6 was Sunday. Their day off. Janelle and Caleb explored the neighborhood, found a park, ate sandwiches on a bench. It should have felt like freedom. But Janelle couldn't stop thinking about that massive house, that silent woman, those 18 chairs. Day 7, they were back. The routine continued. Then came day 9. Janelle was preparing dinner in the kitchen. Caleb sat at the small table doing homework. He hummed while he colored, just a soft, absent-minded melody, the kind of sound happy children make when they don't even realize they're doing it. "You are my sunshine." Janelle barely noticed. She was focused on the chicken, making sure it was perfect. At 6:50, she picked up the first course, butternut squash soup. "Stay here, baby. I'll be right back." She didn't realize Caleb had followed her into the hallway, didn't hear his soft footsteps behind her, didn't know he was still humming. Janelle pushed through the dining room door. Eleanor was already seated in her usual spot, and then Janelle heard it. Behind her. In the hallway. Caleb's voice, sweet and small, humming that tune. Eleanor's entire body went rigid. Her spoon froze halfway to her mouth. Her other hand gripped the table edge. White knuckles. Trembling fingers. Janelle spun around. "Caleb, I told you." Eleanor's voice cut through the air like broken glass. "Stop." Both Janelle and Caleb froze. Eleanor was staring past Janelle, staring at the hallway where Caleb stood. Her face had gone pale. Her breathing was shallow. "The child. What is he humming?" Caleb stepped into the doorway, innocent, confused by the adult tension he didn't understand. "It's my favorite song. You are my sunshine. Do you know it?" The silence that followed felt like falling. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. She blinked rapidly, trying to stop them. Failed. "I know it." Caleb smiled. "My mama sings it to me every night. It makes me feel safe." Something broke in Eleanor's face. A crack in a dam that had held for decades. "Take him back to your quarters." Her voice wasn't angry. It was breaking. "Mrs. Whitmore, I'm so sorry." "Now, please." Janelle grabbed Caleb's hand and pulled him away. Her heart pounded. This was it. They were getting fired. Day 9, and she'd ruined everything. Back in the carriage house, Caleb looked up at her with worried eyes. "Did I do something bad, Mama?" "No, baby. No, you didn't do anything wrong." But her hands were shaking. At 10 o'clock that night, long after Caleb was asleep, someone knocked on the carriage house door. Janelle opened it to find Margot standing there with a tea tray. "May I come in?" They sat at the small table. Margot poured 2 cups in silence. Finally, she spoke. "You should know something. Mrs. Whitmore had a son, Daniel. He died when he was 6 years old. Leukemia. That was 38 years ago." Janelle's stomach dropped. "Oh, God. I didn't know." "You Are My Sunshine" was his favorite song. She used to sing it to him every night before bed. Janelle covered her mouth with her hand. Margot continued, her voice quiet. "After Daniel died, Mr. Whitmore couldn't cope. He left within a year. Eleanor threw herself into building a foundation in Daniel's name, made it her entire life. But she also made a rule. No children allowed in this house, ever. She couldn't bear it." "Should we leave?" Margot looked at her thoughtfully. "That's the strange thing. She didn't fire you tonight. She could have. She's fired others for much less." She paused. "Maybe it's time someone stayed." After Margot left, Janelle stood at the window looking at the main house. Most of it was dark, but one light burned in an upstairs window. She wondered if Eleanor was crying again. The next morning, Janelle walked to the main house expecting termination. Instead, she found a note on the kitchen counter. Handwritten, elegant script. Your son may use the library in the afternoons. The books should be read. E.W. Janelle read it 3 times. That afternoon, she brought Caleb to the library. He chose a picture book and sat cross-legged on the floor, completely absorbed. 20 minutes later, Eleanor appeared in the doorway. She didn't enter, just stood there, watching Caleb turn pages. He looked up, saw her, smiled and waved. Hi. Eleanor didn't respond, but she didn't leave either. She stood there for 5 full seconds, watching him. Then she turned and walked away. But something had shifted. Day 11. Eleanor appeared in the kitchen mid-afternoon. First time she'd come to the kitchen while Janelle was working. The chicken yesterday. It was good. What was the recipe? Janelle looked up, surprised. My grandmother's, ma'am. I can write it down if you'd like. No need. Just make it again Friday. And then, so small Janelle almost missed it, Eleanor smiled. Tiny. Barely there. But real. Day 12. Caleb was drawing at the kitchen table while Janelle prepped dinner. Eleanor came in for tea. She saw his drawing. A house with people in the windows. What's this? Caleb held it up proudly. Our new home. See? That's Mama in the kitchen. That's me in the library. And that's you watching from the window. Eleanor went very still. Why did you put me in it? Because you live here too. And you looked lonely. I thought maybe you wanted to be part of the house too. Eleanor stared at the drawing, at this child's simple understanding of her isolation. May I keep this? Caleb beamed. Yes, I can make you more if you want. Eleanor took the drawing carefully, like it was made of glass. Thank you. That evening, Janelle served dinner as usual. But something was different. Eleanor spoke first. How was your son's day? Janelle nearly dropped the wine bottle. He learned about planets. He's very excited about Saturn. The rings. Eleanor's voice softened. Daniel loved those too. The first time she'd said his name out loud to Janelle. What else did Daniel love? Eleanor looked at the empty chairs surrounding her. Grilled cheese sandwiches, baseball. He collected bugs in jars. A small laugh. Painful but genuine. And noise. So much noise. This house used to be full of it. Used to be. Past tense. 38 years of silence. Janelle set down the wine, made a decision. Mrs. Whitmore, would you like me to stay while you eat? Eleanor looked up sharply, surprised, uncertain. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then so quietly, Janelle barely heard it. Yes, I think I would. Janelle pulled out the chair next to Eleanor, not at the far end, close enough to talk. They ate in silence at first. Then Eleanor asked about Caleb's school, about Janelle's grandmother, about small things that felt enormous. By the end of week 2, something impossible was happening. The dining room table still had 17 empty chairs, but 2 of them had found their purpose. Day 17 started with a weather warning. Severe thunderstorms, high winds, schools dismissing early. Janelle picked up Caleb at noon. Dark clouds rolled in fast. By 5:30, the storm hit hard. Rain hammered the carriage house. Wind screamed through the trees. Thunder cracked so loud the walls shook. Caleb, who'd been afraid of thunder since he was 3, started sobbing. Mama, make it stop. Janelle held him tight. It's okay, baby, just noise. Another boom. The lights flickered. Caleb buried his face in her shoulder, shaking. The carriage house was detached, exposed. The windows rattled violently. Janelle made a decision. She wrapped Caleb in a blanket and ran through the rain to the main house. They burst through the kitchen entrance, both soaking wet. Caleb is still crying. Eleanor appeared in the doorway, hair loose, cardigan instead of formal dress. Almost human. What's happening? I'm sorry, the storm, he's terrified. I didn't know where else. Thunder exploded. Caleb screamed. Eleanor stared at them, at this crying child in her pristine kitchen. Then she spoke quietly. Bring him to the library. There's a fireplace. You don't have to. The kitchen is cold. Come. The library fire was already burning. Eleanor gestured to the sofa. Sit. Janelle sat with Caleb. Eleanor disappeared and returned with quilts. She tucked one around Caleb without a word. Movements, carefully, gentle. Thunder boomed. Caleb whimpered. Eleanor sat in the chair across from them, closer than she'd ever been. When I was a girl, my father told me thunder was clouds bowling. The louder it was, the more strikes they got. Caleb peeked out. Really? Really? Lightning is the scoreboard. Who's winning? The clouds. Always. A tiny smile broke through his tears. Eleanor told stories about childhood storms, about being scared too, about learning that loud things weren't always dangerous. Caleb's breathing slowed. By 7:15, he was asleep. Eleanor looked at the clock. You haven't made dinner. I'm sorry, don't wake him. I'll have something brought in. She called Margot, requested sandwiches and soup. When food arrived, Eleanor didn't leave for the dining room. She set up the tray on the library table. You should eat too. I couldn't. Janelle. First time using her name. Sit. Eat. They ate in comfortable silence. Fire crackling, rain pattering. Caleb is sleeping. Eleanor spoke first. You're a good mother. I'm trying. That's all we can do. Try our best and hope it's enough. Eleanor's voice grew distant. I tried too. It wasn't enough to save him. You can't blame yourself for illness. I don't. I blame myself for letting his death kill me too. Eleanor stared at the fire. For wasting 38 years. Janelle listened. This house used to be full of life. Daniel's friends, birthday parties, laughter. After he died, I couldn't bear the memories. So I erased them, covered the piano, stopped inviting anyone. I thought silence would stop the pain. Did it? No. It just made me silent too. Eleanor looked at Caleb sleeping. He reminds me of what I lost, but also what I gave up. Life, connection. She turned to Janelle. Thank you for bringing him here tonight. You invited us in. First time in 38 years. Eleanor's voice cracked. It's terrifying, but I didn't realize how much I missed it. When the storm passed, Caleb woke groggy and calm. Walking back to the carriage house, Janelle looked back. Eleanor stood in the library window, watching. For the first time, the house didn't look quite so empty. And the next evening, when Janelle came to serve dinner, she found something that made her heart skip. 3 place settings at the table, not spread out, together, at one end. A note in Eleanor's handwriting. If you and Caleb would join me. E.W. That evening, Janelle stared at the note until her hands stopped shaking. 3 place settings. An invitation. At 7 o'clock, she and Caleb walked into the dining room. Eleanor sat at the head of the table, 2 places set beside her. Good evening. Her voice was softer, almost nervous. Caleb climbed into his chair. Thank you for inviting us, Miss Eleanor. Thank you for keeping an old woman company. Dinner was awkward at first, long silences, uncertain glances. Then Caleb asked, "What's your favorite color?" Eleanor blinked. "Blue, I suppose? Yours?" "Red, like fire trucks. Do you like dinosaurs?" Through a 6-year-old's endless questions, the tension dissolved. Day 19. 3 settings again. Day 20. Caleb told Eleanor about school. She listened like every word mattered. Day 21. Eleanor asked about Janelle's grandmother. Really asked. Really listened. Day 22. Eleanor laughed at Caleb's joke. Small, but genuine. Day 23. When Janelle stood to clear plates, Eleanor stopped her. "Sit. Stop serving and sit with us." Day 24. Eleanor taught Caleb table manners. "Elbows off the table, young man." Caleb giggled and straightened up. By week's end, dinner wasn't a job. It was family. Strange, imperfect, but family. Week 5 brought changes. Eleanor appeared in the kitchen more, asked about recipes, shared stories. Once, she helped chop vegetables. Margot walked in and nearly dropped her clipboard. The library became Caleb's afternoon space. Eleanor would read while he did homework. Sometimes she'd help. Sometimes she'd just watch, something unreadable in her expression. One afternoon, Eleanor's phone rang. She stepped into the hallway. Janelle overheard fragments. "Tell the board I'll review Monday. Yes, the education initiative. No, Robert, I won't be swayed." Robert. Eleanor said it like it tasted bitter. She didn't explain. Janelle didn't ask. That evening, Janelle Googled Whitmore Foundation. Professional website. Mission statement about education and family services. Foundation assets, $400 million. President, Eleanor Whitmore. A photo showed Eleanor at a ceremony. Same posture, empty eyes. Caption, Whitmore Foundation celebrates 38 years of service. Shay. 38 years. Exactly how long since Daniel died? Janelle stared at the screen. Eleanor wasn't just wealthy. She was powerful. She'd built an empire from grief, and now she was letting 2 strangers into the fortress she'd spent decades building. Why? What Janelle didn't know was that Eleanor had already made a decision, one that would change all 3 of their lives. But first, everything would have to break apart, because the next week, someone would arrive who didn't want Eleanor to change at all. Day 35 started like any other Wednesday. Eleanor took Caleb to the garden after school. She'd been doing this all week, showing him herbs, teaching him plant names. Janelle watched from the kitchen window, heart full. Then Eleanor sat down hard on the stone bench. Caleb's voice carried across the lawn. "Miss Eleanor?" Janelle was already running. Eleanor was pale, hand pressed to her chest, breathing shallow. "I'm calling 911. "No. Call Dr. Morrison." "The number's in my phone." The doctor arrived in 20 minutes, examined Eleanor right there. "Stress-induced arrhythmia. Your blood pressure is dangerously high." Dr. Morrison was stern. "Next time could be serious, and I'm required to inform your emergency contact." Eleanor's face went tight. "Don't call Robert." But Margot was already on the phone. Protocol. 1 hour later, a black Mercedes roared up the driveway. Robert Whitmore emerged like a storm. Late 40s, expensive suit, sharp eyes. He strode through the front door without knocking. "Where is she?" He burst into the library. Eleanor sat on the sofa. Janelle beside her. Caleb on the floor with blocks. Robert stopped cold. "Who the hell are they?" Eleanor's voice was ice. "Robert, I don't recall inviting you. Margot said you collapsed." His eyes swept the room. "Who are they?" "My staff." None of your concern. Staff living here? Since when? Margot appeared. 5 weeks, Mr. Whitmore. 5 weeks and nobody told me? Eleanor stood. Because it's my house. Robert's gaze locked on Caleb. There's a child here. After everything you said. After you swore never again. Robert, lower your voice. No! He turned to Janelle. How much is she paying you? Janelle stood. 800 a week. Of course. Another vulture. His laugh was bitter. How long before you manipulate her into giving you more? Enough! Eleanor's voice cracked like a whip. Robert wasn't finished. You're vulnerable, Aunt Eleanor. First the health scare, now this. People like her take advantage of women in your position. Janelle's voice was quiet but firm. I haven't asked your aunt for anything. She came to me. After you manipulated your way in with your sob story and your kid, you don't know anything about me. I know you're desperate. I know you saw an opportunity. Eleanor stepped between them. Robert, leave, now. I'm trying to protect you. From what? From living? From feeling something again? Eleanor's voice cracked. For 38 years, I've let you and the board run my life because I was too numb to care. I signed what you told me to sign. I became a ghost. We've been helping you. You've been managing me like an asset. Her hands shook. Janelle saved me. Not from a fall. From suffocating in this empty house. She asked for nothing. Her son brought laughter to rooms dead for decades. So don't you dare suggest manipulation. Robert's jaw tightened. I'm calling an emergency board meeting. We'll discuss your capacity to lead the foundation. Do it. I'm still president, and I'm making changes. You'll regret this. He walked out. The door slammed hard. Caleb's small voice broke the silence. Mama, why was that man so angry? Janelle knelt beside him. He's scared, baby. Sometimes people get mean when they're scared. Eleanor sat down slowly, exhausted. I should explain. The Whitmore Foundation. I founded it 38 years ago after Daniel died. She walked to her desk, pulled out a folder. We fund education, medical research, and family services. The foundation is worth $400 million. Janelle's world tilted. You're that Eleanor Whitmore. I was. I signed checks from behind a desk, built monuments to my dead son. Eleanor looked directly at Janelle. But I've been thinking. Maybe I've been doing it wrong. Maybe instead of helping families from a distance, I should understand what they actually need. She pulled out papers. I'd like to offer you a position. Director of Family Services, $75,000 annually. Full benefits. You and Caleb live here permanently. Janelle couldn't breathe. I don't have experience. You have the only experience that matters. You know what struggling families need because you are one. I can teach administrative work, but I can't teach someone to care like you do. Eleanor pulled out another document. Caleb, I've contacted Riverside Academy. The foundation endows it. Full scholarship, kindergarten through 12th grade. Tears spilled down Janelle's cheeks. This is too much. I'm not buying you. I'm partnering with you. Help me fix what I've broken. Help me make the foundation actually serve people instead of my guilt. Why me? Eleanor's voice softened. 5 weeks ago, I was a ghost. Then your son hummed a song and something cracked open. You didn't pity me. You didn't use me. You just showed up with kindness every day. I need that. The foundation needs that. Janelle wiped her eyes. Can I think about it? Of course. Actually, no. I don't need to think. Janelle's voice strengthened. Yes. But I have conditions. Eleanor looked surprised. All right. 1. I do this job my way. If a policy is wrong, I say so. Agreed. 2. Caleb comes first. Always. If he needs me, work waits. Agreed. What's 3? Janelle looked toward the dining room. We fill that table every Sunday. People from the foundation, families we've helped, staff, whoever needs a place. No more eating alone. Eleanor's breath caught. You want to fill the dining room? You said this house used to be full of noise. Let's bring it back. Eleanor couldn't speak for a long moment. When she did, her voice broke. Daniel would have loved that. They shook hands. Then Eleanor pulled her into a hug. First physical affection in decades. Thank you for saving my life. Janelle held her tight. Thank you for saving ours. Outside, Robert sat in his Mercedes, phone pressed to his ear. I'm telling you, she's not thinking clearly. We need to act fast before this woman destroys everything we've built. He didn't know that Eleanor had already won, because what comes next would prove that filling an empty dining room could change more than one life. It could change hundreds. Week 7 began with Janelle sitting in Eleanor's home office. Not the kitchen, not the library, the actual office where Eleanor ran a $400 million foundation. Mahogany desk, computer monitors, filing cabinets full of grant applications, a wall of framed photos showing ribbon cuttings, scholarship ceremonies, building dedications. Eleanor in every photo, smiling for the camera, eyes completely dead. This is overwhelming, Janelle said. Eleanor sat beside her, not behind the desk. Equal positioning. It should be, but you'll learn. We'll start with the Family Services Division. Current policies, application processes, approval timelines. She pulled up spreadsheets, budget allocations, success metrics. Janelle's head spun. Why does an application take 12 weeks to process? Because we require extensive documentation. Financial records, tax returns, employment verification. That's 12 weeks a family is struggling while we verify paperwork. Janelle leaned forward. What if we simplified it? What if we trusted people? Eleanor paused. We've had fraud cases. How many? In 38 years? Maybe a dozen. Out of how many applications? Thousands. Janelle looked at her. So we're making thousands of families wait months because of 12 bad actors? Eleanor stared at the screen, at policies she'd approved without questioning. You're right. Let's change it. Over the next 2 weeks, they worked together every morning. Eleanor teaches. Janelle questions everything. Why are income limits so low? Why don't we have caseworkers with lived experience? Why does the application ask about criminal history? What does that have to do with needing help? Every question made Eleanor see her foundation differently. One afternoon, Robert appeared unannounced. I'm here for the quarterly board meeting. Eleanor looked up from her computer. That's next week. I moved it up. The board has concerns. About what? About your recent decisions. Your new hire. He glanced at Janelle. Your judgment. The board meeting happened 2 days later. 8 people around a conference table in Eleanor's formal dining room. The irony wasn't lost on Janelle. Robert sat across from Eleanor, arms crossed, ready for battle. We're here to discuss recent changes to foundation operations, specifically the appointment of an unqualified director and the radical restructuring of our application processes. Eleanor's voice was calm. Janelle is highly qualified. She has first-hand experience with the populations we serve. She has no advanced degree, no nonprofit management experience, she has empathy. She has insight. She has exactly what this foundation has lacked for 38 years. A board member spoke up. Older woman, kind eyes. Eleanor, can you walk us through the specific changes? Janelle stood. Eleanor had coached her for this moment. We've reduced application processing time from 12 weeks to 3. We've simplified documentation requirements. We've eliminated questions that shame applicants. And we've hired caseworkers who've actually experienced poverty. That's a dramatic departure from protocol. Janelle pulled up a slide on her laptop. In 6 weeks, applications have tripled because people trust us now. Approval rates are the same. Fraud hasn't increased, but we're helping people faster. She showed testimonials, videos of families, a single mother in tears. They didn't just pay my rent. They helped me find a better job. Ms. Williams visits monthly. She remembers my name. An elderly man. The foundation paid for my wife's medication. But more than that, they made us feel human. The board members watched in silence. Robert spoke. These anecdotes are touching, but what about long-term sustainability? Eleanor cut him off. In 6 weeks, Janelle has done what we couldn't do in 38 years. She made the foundation approachable, real, effective. She stood, commanding the room. I've spent nearly 4 decades writing checks from a distance, attending galas, giving speeches, and I was miserable, because I'd forgotten why I started this. Daniel died, and I wanted his death to mean something. But I built a monument instead of a movement. Her voice grew stronger. Janelle reminded me what this is supposed to be about. People, not policies. Connection, not control. The board voted. 6 in favor of the changes, 1 abstention, 1 against. Robert stood abruptly. I'm resigning from the board. Robert, you've made your choice, Aunt Eleanor. I hope you don't regret it. He left without another word. The older board member touched Eleanor's hand. I haven't seen you this engaged in years. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That Sunday, everything changed. Week 8. The first official Sunday dinner. Janelle spent all day cooking. Eleanor helped. Actually helped. Chopping vegetables, stirring sauces, laughing when she burned the garlic. Margot set the table. Not 1 place setting, not 3. 12. The guests arrived at 5. Rosa, the friend who'd first helped Janelle, a family currently receiving foundation assistance, parents and 3 kids, Dr. Morrison and his wife, 2 foundation staff members, Margot, joining as a guest for the first time. At 6 o'clock, they sat down together. That enormous dining room, that table built for celebration, finally fulfilling its purpose. Voices overlapping, children laughing, plates being passed, stories being shared. Eleanor sat at the head of the table, Janelle to her right, Caleb to her left. She looked around at the full chairs, the warm faces, the life. Eleanor raised her glass. Her hand didn't shake. To new beginnings, and to the people who make them possible. Everyone raised their glasses. Janelle caught Eleanor's eye. They smiled at each other. After dinner, the kids ran through the house, playing tag in hallways that had been silent for decades. Eleanor watched them, tears streaming down her face. But she was smiling. "This is what it should have been all along," she whispered. Janelle squeezed her hand. "It's what it is now. That's what matters." Later, after everyone left, the 3 of them sat in the library. Fire crackling. Hot chocolate in mugs. Caleb building with blocks on the floor. Eleanor picked up Where the Wild Things Are from the shelf. "Caleb, would you like me to read to you?" "Yes, please, Miss Eleanor." She opened the book, started reading, voice warm and steady. Janelle watched them. This woman who'd been frozen in grief, this boy who'd somehow thawed her. Her own life had changed impossibly in 8 weeks. From $83 and 3 jobs to a career with purpose. From a studio apartment to a home. From surviving to thriving. But more than that, she'd found family. Not the family she was born into. Not the family she'd dreamed of. The family she'd chosen. and who'd chosen her back. 3 months passed like a dream Janelle kept waiting to wake from. But every morning, she opened her eyes in a real bedroom, put on professional clothes, walked to an office where her opinions mattered. The foundation transformed under their partnership. Board meeting, month 3. Janelle stood at the head of the table, Eleanor beside her. In 3 months, we've processed 150 applications, average approval time down from 12 weeks to 3. Satisfaction ratings up 300%. A board member leaned forward. How? We talk to people like human beings, not case numbers. We ask what they need instead of telling them what we'll give. Janelle played testimonials. A single mother. They didn't just pay my rent. Ms. Williams helped me find work. She checks on us monthly. An elderly veteran. I was ashamed to ask. Ms. Williams said I'd earned it. That changed everything. The room was silent. Eleanor spoke. The numbers are impressive, but the impact is what matters. We're changing lives. The board approved expansion. Unanimously. Outside, Eleanor touched Janelle's arm. You're a natural. I'm terrified every time. Good. That means you care. Sunday dinners became tradition. Week 12, 20 people around the table. Extensions added. Foundation beneficiaries, donors, staff, volunteers, always children. Running through hallways, laughing in rooms that had forgotten the sound. One Sunday, Caleb helped serve dessert with another foundation kid, both wearing aprons Margot had made. Eleanor watched with peace on her face. After the guests left, she and Janelle cleaned together. Martha Stewart would be horrified by my dishwasher loading. Janelle laughed. You're getting better. Caleb appeared. Miss Eleanor, how many people did we help this month? 200 families, sunshine. That's a lot. Eleanor ruffled his hair. It's a start. Month 6 brought media attention. Local news ran a feature. Whitmore Foundation revolutionizes philanthropy. The reporter interviewed them at the new community center. Mrs. Whitmore, what changed? Eleanor looked at Janelle. I stopped hiding. I started listening. And I hired someone who understood. Mrs. Whitmore gave me a chance when I had nothing. Now we're giving that to hundreds of families. The piece showed ribbon cuttings, scholarship presentations. Eleanor is surrounded by families, actually smiling. A national magazine followed with a profile titled, The Philanthropist Who Came Back to Life. Quotes from beneficiaries filled the article. They don't just give money, they give hope. Ms. Williams understands because she's been us. Mrs. Whitmore treats everyone like family. Statistics followed. 8 million distributed in 6 months. 500 families assisted. 85 scholarships. The final paragraph made Eleanor cry. For 38 years, Eleanor Whitmore built monuments to loss. Now she's building bridges to life. And she's discovered something she thought lost forever. Purpose. Robert sent one final email. Eleanor read it aloud over morning coffee. You've destroyed the foundation's reputation. You've let emotions override judgment. History will prove I was right. Eleanor deleted it without responding. Does it bother you? Janelle asked. It saddens me, but I can't let his fear control my life. Eleanor sipped her coffee. I love him, but he's wrong. That afternoon, Mrs. Carter visited. 75, been on the board 20 years. She sat in the library with them. I've never seen the foundation do more good than right now. You were always generous with money, Eleanor. But now you're generous with yourself. That's the real change. After she left, Eleanor was quiet. I wasted so much time. Janelle shook her head. You were surviving. There's no shame in that. But I could have been living. You are now. That's what matters. Eleanor looked around the library, at Where the Wild Things Are, waiting for tonight's reading, at Caleb's drawings on the wall, at the life that had filled this house. Yes, I am now. 6 months ago, Eleanor Whitmore ate alone. Now every Sunday she sat surrounded by laughter. The table built for 18 finally fulfilled its purpose. The walls that had held only echoes now rang with joy. And the woman who thought her story ended 38 years ago discovered it was just beginning. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone in. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give is showing up. 1 year to the day since Janelle and Caleb moved in. Morning light filled Janelle's office, the converted music room, her name on the door. Janelle Williams, Director of Family Services. Walls covered with photos. Families helped. Thank you letters. Lives changed. Caleb burst in wearing his Riverside Academy uniform. "Mama, I got an A on my science project." Janelle hugged him. "I'm so proud. Tell Miss Eleanor at dinner." "Is it a big dinner tonight?" "Very big. Anniversary celebration." That evening, the dining room glowed. 24 people, every seat filled. Rosa, Dr. Morrison, Margot laughing with children, foundation families, board members, Caleb's teacher. Eleanor sat at the head wearing lavender, no more black. Janelle to her right, Caleb to her left. At 7, Eleanor stood with her glass. The room quieted. 1 year ago, this table sat empty except for me. I thought that's how my life would end. Alone, frozen, safe from pain. She looked at Janelle. Then you two walked into my kitchen and changed everything. You didn't just fill this dining room, you filled my life. Thank you. Janelle's eyes filled. Thank you for seeing us, for trusting us, for becoming family. Everyone raised their glasses. Caleb tugged Eleanor's sleeve. Can I say something? Of course, sunshine. He stood on his chair. Thank you to Miss Eleanor for being the best grandma, even though you're not really my grandma, and for helping my mama help people. The room erupted in applause. Eleanor pulled him close, tears streaming. After dinner, children played through hallways. Adults shared stories over coffee. Late evening, the three of them in the library, fire crackling. The house is quiet but not empty, never empty anymore. Caleb brought Where the Wild Things Are. Will you read, Miss Eleanor? Always. She settled on the sofa, Caleb on one side, Janelle on the other hand. Eleanor read, voice warm and sure. Janelle watched them. This woman was frozen in grief. This boy who'd thawed her. Her own journey from $83 to a life with purpose, not bound by blood, bound by choice. Kindness. Showing up every day. Eleanor finished the story. Closed the book. I spent 38 years believing love meant loss. You both taught me that love means life, and life is meant to be shared. Caleb yawned. Can we do this every night forever? Eleanor smiled. Every night forever. Outside, snow began falling. Inside, the house that had been a tomb glowed with warmth. 3 people who found each other against impossible odds. A family not born, but built. One small act of kindness at a time. For 38 years, Eleanor Whitmore ate dinner alone at a table built for 18. She convinced herself that isolation was safety, that silence was strength, that never letting anyone in meant never getting hurt again. She was wrong. It took Janelle, a mother with $83 and unshakable grace, to show her the truth. The opposite of loss isn't isolation. It's a connection. And it took Caleb, a 6-year-old boy who hummed the right song at the right time, to remind her that life doesn't end when tragedy strikes. It just waits, patiently, for us to be ready to live again. Maybe you're like Eleanor, hiding behind walls you built to feel safe. Or maybe you're like Janelle, showing up every day with grace despite the struggle. Either way, there's a table somewhere waiting to be filled. With laughter. With connection. With life. Don't wait 38 years. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories about ordinary people creating extraordinary change. Share this with someone who needs to remember that it's never too late to let people in. What empty table in your life needs filling? Tell us in the comments below. Now go fill someone's dining room with laughter, starting with your own.